Hey friends, this is Angela from Art of Creation Homestead. You're in the kitchen with me again, and today I'm going to teach you how to make a wonderful dessert. I know the name's going to sound a little weird, but I'm going to teach you how to make mud hens. If you've never had a mud hen, then you are missing out, my friend, and you'll want to make this as soon as possible because these are amazing. So let's get started. First things first, you want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. You want to take a 13x9 baking dish. I'm using a glass baking dish. It's up to you what you choose to use. And I have it lined with parchment paper. You don't have to line it, but they will come out much easier if you line it. And you want to spray the parchment paper. I know parchment paper has a non-stick ability, but there's going to be an element of this that is going to be very sticky. So you'll want to spray the parchment paper down. So now let's get started with this recipe. We have, in this bowl, we have 1 stick, which is a ½ a cup of unsalted butter that has been softened. It's at room temperature. See, when you push on it, it gives. It leaves your finger mark. That's how you know it's at room temperature and it's nice and softened. We also have 1 cup of granulated sugar. Now, you want to cream that together. I'm just going to use a plain old hand mixer because this is that easy. You don't have to use a stand mixer for it. Just use a plain old hand mixer. Now, when you get to this stage where it's not fully creamed yet, but your butter and sugar are starting to come together a little bit, but it's not fully creamed, you want to add to this 1 whole egg, 1 whole large egg, and 2 large egg yolks. Now those 2 egg whites you want to put in a separate bowl because you are going to use those later. So don't throw them away. You are going to use those later. I'll show you what you're going to do with them in just a few minutes. But you're going to add that 1 whole egg, 2 egg yolks to your mixture. And you are going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. You guys know I don't measure vanilla. So this is going to be roughly measured vanilla extract. A little extra vanilla never hurt nobody. Now, we're going to finish blending this up. Now this is all beat up. And as you can see, it's nice and creamy and fluffy. And it's a lot paler in color. You want to beat it until it's nice and creamy and fluffy. And your egg yolks start to turn a little paler in color. That's when you know it's right. Now right here, I have just pre-measured this. You can just go ahead and dump it straight into the bowl. I've pre-measured it for videoing purposes. I have 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. I have 1 teaspoon of baking powder and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now I'm just going to use my wax paper to dump it on into the bowl. You don't have to pre-measure. You can just dump it straight on into the bowl. Now, I'm not even going to use a mixer for this part. I'm just going to fold that flour in by hand. This will take just a few minutes to get all that flour incorporated into your other mixture. It will take just a few minutes, but truthfully it won't take long at all. This is going to be like a cookie crust for your mud hens. What mud hens are, they are basically a cookie crust topped with chocolate chips and marshmallows, and then the whole thing is topped with brown sugar meringue, and then it's baked in the oven until the chocolate and the marshmallow is ooey gooey and your cookie crust is nice and tender and beautiful and buttery, and then your brown sugar meringue on top is toasted. It's nice and toasted and crunchy and has this beautiful toasted brown sugar flavor. And if you're thinking that sounds to die for, it's because they are. And you want to make sure that you blend all of this in so that there are no flour streaks in there. There are no dry ingredients in the bottom. There's no dry ingredients anywhere to be seen. And yes, it's going to be very stiff. Okay, here we have our 13 by 9 glass baking dish. Like I said, I've lined it with parchment and sprayed the parchment because that marshmallow layer and the meringue is going to be very sticky. So you want to make sure that these come out nice and clean when you cut them into bars. Now, you want to make sure you get every last drop of that dough because it really is more of a dough than a batter because it is very stiff. But like I said, it's almost like a cookie. So it's going to be more like cookie dough than like cake batter or like brownie batter or anything like that. It's actually going to be a dough. I love using the tools that God gave me, so I've sprayed them with a little bit of cooking spray. And now I'm going to spread it out to pat it out to the corners. You want to make sure you get good coverage of all sides and all corners. Now it's all patted out in an even layer, and I'm going to go wash my nasty hands. Now that this is all spread out and ready to go, and my hands are nice and clean now, I'm going to put 1 1/4 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips over the top. Now I'm using semi-sweet. You can use milk, but I will tell you, with the marshmallow and the brown sugar meringue and everything like that, if you use milk, it's going to get a little sweet. It's going to have a tendency to be a little on the sweet side. So if you don't mind that and you prefer milk chocolate, go ahead and do the milk chocolate. But me, I love that semi-sweet chocolate with this. It makes for a better balance. And to me, that's what it's all about with desserts, is not making them too sweet and not making them feel like they're going to give you cavities after one bite, but to make them nice and balanced. Now you want to take your hand and kind of pat them lightly, very lightly. Don't push them into the dough. Just very lightly pat them into the dough. Now we are going to add 1.5 cups of miniature marshmallows. Now you want to just sprinkle your marshmallows just like you did your chips. You want to pack your marshmallows into your cup. That way you get more in there. Because if you just loosely let them go, then you probably are not going to have enough marshmallows for a good marshmallow layer. Now you want to make sure that everything goes out to the corners, because you don't want those corners to not have any goodies in them. You want to give everybody some love. You want to make sure everybody gets some love on this thing. So now we have our marshmallow layer, our chocolate layer, our cookie layer. Now we are going to do our brown sugar meringue. Now you want to make sure this is a very clean bowl. No oils of any sort in the bowl, because it will keep your egg whites from whipping. You want to whip these to stiff peaks. You will know that they are ready when your whip or whisk attachment leaves these trails. And when you stick your whisk in, get some on there, if you can, because their whip is so good, that see any peaks on there are standing straight up. See any peaks in your bowl, they're standing straight up. And an also good way to know if they are nice and stiff peaks is do this. And see, none's falling out, therefore they're nice stiff peaks. Now to this, we are going to add 1 cup of packed light brown sugar. Now at first, you are going to do a sacrificial little bit. You're going to do a sacrificial 1/3 of your brown sugar. That will help deflate your egg whites just a little bit. You want to fold in that brown sugar, which is cut down the middle, scrape to the side, turn. And you want to keep folding that in. The reason I call that sacrificial brown sugar is because you are using that to help bring the two things together, and it deflates the egg whites just a little bit and makes them more willing to get along. They're not feuding anymore. And see, your meringues are turning a nice, beautiful golden brown color. And now You've deflated your egg whites just a little bit, but you've made it more susceptible to take on the brown sugar. So now you can add the rest of your brown sugar, because now it can take it. So now you want to mix that in. Don't use a mixer at this point. Just use your hand and gently fold it in, because you want to keep as much air as you possibly can, because these are meringues. They're not, this is not like a frosting or anything like that. This is meringue. So you want to make sure that it's nice and mixed in well. You want to make sure your brown sugar is completely mixed. Make sure there's no big lumps, because you know brown sugar does like to lump. If so, just take your spoon or your spatula, whichever you're using, and mash them against the side of the bowl until you don't see any more lumps. Until it's nice and smooth, like you see this is. This is very smooth and just glorious. So you want to make sure that it's nice and smooth and just beyond beautiful. Look at that. Look at that. Isn't that glorious? That is ridiculous. And it tastes so good once it toasts. And that toasted brown sugar flavor is just phenomenal. So now we've brought our pan back. Now we are going to gently just dollop this on. Now your marshmallows are going to want to come up with it. Just be patient, be gentle. Just kind of glob it on in just kind of big globs here and there. I'm just kind of pouring it from the bowl just a little bit. And this smells so good already. And it's not even baked. And it already smells so good. The brown sugar meringue to me is part of what makes this so amazing. I promise you, this dessert is so addictive. You can't get enough of it. So now you want to take your spatula and you want to gently spread. Like I said, your marshmallows are going to want to come up. Just so be gentle. Just be gentle. It's okay if you start to see some marshmallows poking through. As long as they're completely covered with the meringue. It's okay if you see the shape of the marshmallow. But you want to make sure that your meringue is pushed completely out to the edges. And yes, to answer your question, any of you who know anything about baking and know anything about meringue, you know meringue doesn't do well on a rainy day. You don't get good meringue on a rainy day. Well, this meringue, it is raining cats and dogs here in Ohio today. We've already gotten 2 inches, and we're expecting at least 1 to 2 more inches of rain. So it is raining cats and dogs here. And as you can see, this worked out beautifully. Because this meringue, the way it is with the brown sugar, it's way more stable. So the good news is, you can make these on a rainy day. Now just make sure it's out to all the corners, all the edges. Make sure everything is sealed down. Make sure everything is sealed down in there. That there's no holes or anything where your marshmallows have settled. And there you go. Now we're going to pop this in to a 350-degree oven until your top is nice and golden brown, getting a little on the verge of dark brown. And I'll show you what it looks like when we're there. Okay, this deliciousness is out of the oven. It baked for about, I'm going to say, 25 to 35 minutes. I know that's a wide time span there, but it depends on your oven and a lot of different factors with this, the type of baking dish you use, everything. So mine baked for oddly specific 27 minutes. You will know it's ready when it's nice and brown like this. When you get that nice brownness. It feels firm on top. And you're starting to get a little bit of cracking. And it's all puffed up because those marshmallows are going to puff like crazy, just like they do when they're heated. As this cools, you're going to see those start to deflate, because that's what marshmallows do. They deflate. And you're going to start to see a little more crackling in your meringue. That's fine. That's what you want. But you want to let these cool completely. Do not touch them. Do not be tempted to dig in a spoon in there. Do not be tempted to cut them. You want to let them cool completely before you even attempt to cut them.
Look at that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Are they mud hens?
Yes.
Yes, mud hens. Still was right. Sounds kind of nasty, but they don't taste that way. It's so good. Yeah. That topping, meringue, chocolate chips in there, a little cakey bottom. So good. Normally, if you told somebody they had a cakey bottom, that wouldn't sound very, very nice. Kind of works for that. So, thank you guys so much for watching. That's a wonderful, wonderful dessert. Easy and relatively easy, right?
Yeah.
So thank y'all for watching. We do appreciate it. My name is Jason. That's Angela Kay over there. This is Our Creation Homestead. We love y'all. God bless you and goodbye.